Hello to the fall 2025 Tornado Tumblers couches. I'm starting here at door number 4. This is where you enter for work and where people enter for class. So I just want to make sure everybody's familiar with this area. Here will be a table where the security person will be monitoring the door. This bathroom is available to families. Then when you head down this hallway, there's a women's locker room here and a men's here that will both be open. They're welcome to use the bathroom in any of those 3 places. We're asking people to put their belongings in lockers in the hallway. They can also set things on top of the lockers, and they're welcome to use any lockers that are open in the locker rooms, so you can share that with anybody who is in need. Here is where some information will be hung: Kleenex, Band-Aids, hair ties. I'm gonna leave this stack of chairs here. They don't fit in the room, but often if we have an overflow, people will grab one and maybe squish next to a family member, or at least sit in the hallway if there's somebody who can't stand in the hallway for a class. We do send home a welcome email that says we do not have room for more than 1 adult per family, but people do not adhere to that. So we continue to tell them so they can hopefully make good choices for them and their family. But this area does overflow often. Then if you see here, I'm using this cheese mat for at least the first 3 weeks to make sure kids don't just run through the door. And I've placed this sign an annoying amount of places. Now those signs will probably be destroyed by the 2nd or 3rd week, and we can probably throw them away then, but I just want to make sure everybody gets the message that they have to stay in this area. And then you will need to say, when somebody's brother tries to sit on this blue carpet or roll around on it during class, you just have to speak up and say, I need you to stay behind the white line, because if you let them do it once, they're 100% going to do it again, and it will get worse. Other kids will start doing it, and parents do not stop their kids more often than you would think. They don't care. They just want their kid to sit there and be quiet during class, and they don't care where they do it. I also put cones here that can probably go away after a few weeks to try to get kids to not go under. I think a key part of asking them to not go under is to give them a clear place to walk, which is why I left a gap and big gaps places, because then they should know where the door is. It's not that far to walk. They don't have to walk by strangers. So please ask them to walk around. Again, with these extra cones and signs, it's okay if they go away eventually, but we want to start off strong, them knowing the process. And then this is also a place where we'll have to keep a mat, because otherwise kids are going to end up going further and further. And our main job is to coach the kids in gymnastics, not manage the seating area. So make sure it's set up how you want it before you start. I also think calling your class out in a good way sets a good tone. So if your warm-up is over here, these cones, you should come right where I'm standing, walk on this line, and then say, if you hear your name, please come line up behind me, and then call out first name, last initial for every kid, and then say, awesome, you can follow me this way. Walk down this line, and then say, keep your feet on the white line. And then this is where you'd stop for warm up. You have the kids turn this way. You can talk to them from there, so you can see all of them standing shoulder to shoulder. Then when it's their turn, they go around this cone and do an activity till they get to that cone, go around and walk back where they already walked. So it couldn't be more clear, because you already did it with them. And when they can stand in line right here, that allows them to watch what the activity is. So if they weren't sure what we were doing, they should be able to see it. Then when you're starting on the panel mat side, same thing. I would walk in right here, go, if you hear your name, come line up behind me. Use this line for a clear place to tell them to walk. And then I would walk down this way till you get to the first mat. I would have them walk back on the white line because it's so clear. And then they're gonna do their activities down the mat, come back this way, and then when they do their candlestick or their push-up, they'll go off to this side where they have more room. And then I intentionally left this big space out here so that you guys could sit with your class in a circle and everybody could see. It's easier to get hands on kids, to show them. Make sure during warm up you do a good mix of doing it with them so they know what it looks like and saying, copy me. And then also do a mix of, okay, stay right there. I'm gonna walk around and check everybody and try to correct them if they could be doing things better. That's a time of learning and we don't want it to go unmonitored or uncoached the whole time. So starting over in the floor area, note this is 1, 2, 3 weeks. And then I put some edits for week 3. So I thought starting off strong by repeating stuff might be better than repeating things at the end. But I did put in edits for different weeks so that it will look the same and be similar, but a few things can change so that the kids or you don't get bored with what they're doing, but that it's safe and familiar as well. Please remember, there are many 5-year-olds in class right now who started school this week. So they have met one teacher maybe before, they may have never taken a class before, and if we would have seen them in the summer, they would have been in a preschool class. So please make sure that you're really coaching those 5-year-olds like they're preschoolers almost, because they are barely school age. And then it will be easy if you can get all of those younger kids doing the same simple, safe things well to challenge the older kids if they need it. So here on floor, I put this dot off to the side so that they're not running into each other here. They're gonna run, hurdle is the word from the mats to the springboard, and tuck jump, stick, finish, soldier, and then walk back on the side with the dot. This is the #1 station for rushing through it. Kids end up running, it looks like they're in circles. They don't even jump on the springboard, and they will not stick, finish, soldier unless you make them do it. So I would park myself right at the end of that mat and make them copy you and do it over and over again. And again, if they're not landing in a safe stick on the flat ground, when they jump off of beams, it's kind of scary. So make sure they understand what it is. Next, over by the green dot, they're doing wall walk to handstand. Remember, they don't need to actually walk their hands in towards the wall. The goal is that they're doing it well, and that sometimes includes just their hands staying out here and trying to be straight. The older class walks their hands in and rolls off the wall, so that hopefully that can create some confidence when they're kicking all the way up to handstands, of not flopping on their back and not always doing a bridge, but being able to tuck their chin and roll out. And again, a dot off to the side so that they don't fall on one another. Here is where they're doing their crab walk. I put a dot so you could say, wait at the yellow dot, crab walk, find the yellow dot, walk back to the yellow dot. There's also some other options there and some changes for later, so make sure you check those out and ask questions if you're not sure how to execute those. Next, over on the laser beam is, depending on the age, bean bags or pit blocks, and I just threw a basket of those things over here. I could not find more than 3 pit blocks, so you might just have to go with 3 pit blocks and 2 bean bags, or just do 3 tuck jumps instead of 5, but you're not crazy. I couldn't find them, so there is only 3 there. And make sure you check before your class starts, but they're close by, so you could quick switch them out if you need to, if you have different ages. And then over by the blue dot, again off to the side, is where they're going on the beam and bear walking across. And again, enforce that stick, finish, soldier right away when the session starts, otherwise it will only get worse. Remember, this mat can move that way. So if the kids are younger and more tentative, they could walk half the beam instead of the whole beam, and then they would get to jump off and do their dismount, stick, finish, soldier, an extra time or 2. So move this mat back and forth as you need to. And again, a bear walk is another place where they rush a lot. So explain their legs are supposed to be straight, they want to be tiptoeing. And remember, we need to know that that's a core station, really. It's a strength station, and it's the muscles to keep their weight on their arms, like a kick to handstand, and the muscles they'll need for a teeter-totter when they get to that part. And the clamping of the beam is really unique. So when their hands are that close together holding on, they don't really do that anywhere else. So I know if we don't know why a station for young kids, it's not always like as fun to coach it. So ask yourself why, and then help them be good at it. You've done a bear walk, you know that it can be challenging even for you. So challenge their strength during class. Reminder at Tornado Tumblers, the whole idea is introducing them to gymnastics and making them stronger and a better learner. We don't have move-ups. We don't have a team for them to go to. Our real goal is teaching them how to learn things they haven't learned before and make their body more functional and stronger. And that's why I think some of the strength stations are so important here, because they're never going to do that somewhere else. They've probably never learned how to do a pull-up. They haven't learned how to do a push-up. And we know those things are most important things for gymnastics, so we need to stick with those values and teach them that. Over in this area, there's a couple differences between the age groups. This bar for slider glide swing is 8 and under only. The 9 to 11s are not using this. I just think it will be too hard to set the bar that different on the same day for those different ages. And we're gonna let the 9 to 11s use the high beam instead, but not the younger kids. A slider glide swing is where their hands grab onto the bar and their feet go on the slider. And then they're either in a pike or a hollow, depending how tall they are. And they try to slide their feet out and back like a glide swing, but their feet are on the ground, trying to keep their legs together and their knees straight. That might take some adjusting height-wise. I don't know how you're gonna do it. Probably pulling another 4-inch under if your kids are really short, but it's okay if they're pretty piked for 7 and 8. And I guess if you had a really tall class, you might just need to skip it or move the bar up. So if you think you might be needing to move the bar, make sure you know how to safely do it. I would love to help you. Over here is that high beam for the 9 to 11s where they're trying a bunny hop. Make sure to describe what that is and challenge them how to do it better. There's a dot right there for them. Over here, the kids are doing jump to front supports and casting back to the block. So you want them to go up and down, and then get them to try to like swing their legs. So it's like casting back to the block. Now the 5-6s should not do this the first week. I think the other 4 is going to be a tall enough order. And remember, we get 3 weeks. So we'll just skip it the first week and then do it the next 2 so that the first week can be a little bit smoother sailing. I also think this should stay apart like this for 7s and 8s because their feet will swing between it. But the 5-6s, I would put them together or pull one out totally and put one in the middle and just back it up if you need to a little bit, because for them, the bar won't be low enough where they're actually swinging between it anyways. And if they start from that big of a straddle, they might not be able to physically jump up. They're probably gonna have to have their feet together. I did leave this mat here on purpose in case anybody falls over the bar to help keep it a little bit safer. And for the beginning, we're not doing a forward roll. So hopefully then you won't have to be so close nearby for safety. We're just focusing more on the learning what a cast is and connecting and front support. And again, if we're going to teach them a pullover and we want them to finish in a front support, but they don't know what that is, it will be harder to teach them. And if we want to spot anybody on a back hip circle ever and they don't know what a cast is, that will make it much trickier. So if you can try to instill those words in them, front support and cast, that will help us build across the session. The low bar here is only being used by 9 to 11s. And then you can check the lesson plan for that. Here's the rings where they're gonna hang down low, put their feet on that panel mat and practice their pull-ups. Then over on the trampoline, they're connecting some jumps. Again, teach the words connecting and alternating. So connecting, we want them to know it means to go right away or to not stop. But connecting doesn't need to mean go your fastest. So sometimes when you try to get them to go right away, then they do their tuck and straddle, kind of a combo of one jump. And so tell them to take their time. Say, don't stop all the way, keep going, but you can go nice and easy. And I use the words tuck, jump, straddle, jump, tuck, jump, straddle, jump in that way, and tell them to say in their head, and that usually helps if they're rushing a little bit as well. And then here is where some of the groups are starting to do their wall walk pullover. I wanted to point out that I made an effort to try to make each of these dots at each station a different color. The reason I like to do that is because they will not remember which way they're supposed to rotate. We like to say, we're gonna rotate exactly the way that I explained it. They don't remember the order. To them, they don't see like the circle that we see. They just see stuff to run to. And so if we can say, okay, we're gonna rotate. If you're at the red dot, come over to the green dot. The green dot's gonna go to the blue dot. That's something they can find on their own. They don't need to know the name of anything other than a color and a dot, which we know that they will know and can find the next thing. Then from there, what you do want to do is say, remember, at the blue dot, we're connecting our tuck jump, straddle jump. At the rings, we're practicing our pull up. At the whatever the red block's dot color is, we're practicing our front support. And because then they'll know where they're standing and what they're at, that's another chance to hear the name of the station. So trying to implement those things and doing that speaking the same each time will let them kind of know, okay, I forgot, but the coach is probably going to say again, I'm at the blue one, what's coming next? So that can also help them feel a little bit more comfortable to know that they're going to get a reminder. And I think we as coaches think, oh, they're supposed to remember. We already told them. They just don't have any frame of reference. Every single thing you're saying to them could be a new word because they could have never heard any of the exercises before, any of the names of the equipment. So just try to teach patiently and remind patiently, because they will catch on as the session goes if you continue to repeat yourself kindly. I wanted to make one last note about this bar. The age 8 and under are actually using this bar for bat hang, and I think I might have said wall walk pullover. So I chose to start with a bat hang because you don't need to stand there and monitor it so one-on-one, so that you can make sure to get to know the kids' names, to check on the safety and the success of all the stations, not just one. And I also think coaches assume that a bat hang is for a wall walk pullover. And while parts of that are true, parts of it are not. So a bat hang is supposed to get kids used to going upside down, hanging upside down, but they're supposed to have their arms straight and they're supposed to be in a hollow. And it's actually the position for the middle of a back hip circle. So they want to learn straight arms, straight legs, feet together, hips flat or squeezing their butt together. And then they want their back to be round and they want to be able to see their feet. So we actually would reference that position more in a back hip circle than we would in a pullover. If we want them to do a wall walk pullover, we actually need them to bend their arms. They have to have their arms bent to make a wall walk pullover. If they went to a bat hang with straight legs and they kicked off the wall, their thighs would slam into the bar and they would fall down. And so we don't want to equate those things and go, oh, you can try your wall walk pullover now, like they needed more of a challenge. For this week for the bat hang, the challenge is holding still for 5 seconds, remembering to take turns with a friend, and getting their hands to the strength they need to be and the confidence to be upside down. And then when they switch to a wall walk pullover later in the lesson plan, we want to say, now when we do this one, we start holding our chin by the bar, and when we walk up the wall, we want to keep our arms bent so that they know the difference of those two things. So although they do start, like they look similar to us, they're not serving the exact same purpose. So don't switch kids on early. Try to let them just work on getting really good at that, and then make sure that you're coaching to these other things over here as well.